we've gone through because of the appropriation process, various budget line item type of things, and in simplest of terms, we're talking such as perhaps deputy or assistant directors, those kind of things, and also in the point that you've got two separate offices, what the cost, the rental for the other offices, those types of things. So we've gone through the line item approach to see where we could possibly look at those consolidations.
Does that mean people would lose their job since you don't need two secretaries, you don't need two, who else works that way?
I think
Would people in the comptroller's office or treasurer's office?
Sure. Let me respond first, and I'll pass it over to Judy. Having been being in the private sector and having been a part of consolidations of companies that my parent company's been involved with, there's a logical way to go at it, and that is really looking at attrition, looking for retirements, bringing people together, see where they are within their scope, and work through this, manage it. This isn't something that you're going to be able to, punch a hole in the first day you walk into the office after it's been consolidated by the referendum. So it's something you'll need to work through.
Mm-hmm. How long would it take then? For 50 positions, that's a lot of people.
Well, you're talking 50. Were the 50 positions on there, and then the overheads and the like, is what you're saying, right?
It says here, position to reduce staffing by more than
50, and then the overheads, and then the other overheads and the like. It'll take time, and it's something to work through, and it's something that we will know will happen once the constitutional amendment has been presented to the public. Once you know it's going to be happening, you can start looking at those type of things.
And I can tell you, when I became treasurer for 3 terms, and if you looked at the staff that we maintained, it was a mix of things that went all the way back to Adlai Stevenson. There was no desire to go out there and just lop heads or kick people out. If they had a function, and we spoke to to people, we interviewed, we made sure that everybody was doing a job. I mean, from a personal standpoint, I've always been picky about the fact if you work for me, you have to work. You do have a function. You must perform, and I only ask them to work as hard as I do. That's pretty hard. So everybody has to know we'll be working hard.
How much of this is deliberately cumbersome? I mean, it's going to take a lot to get assembly, to the ballot, and voters, and it doesn't happen until 2014. I mean, you guys get the benefit of going around the state saying, look, we're going to cut $12 million. We're for smaller government, even though it's not going to happen for 4 years if, and that's a huge if, it even happens.
Well, then the option is not doing it.
Well, yeah, what good is
and
that?
So, I mean, with all respect, the option is not doing it. And I think what's happening today is the public of Illinois is looking for government to respond to problems. And what we're talking about is a actual structural change of our government. And is it going to be tough to get done? Yes. Changing the Constitution is a tough thing to do, and it's intentionally a tough thing to do. But I'll tell you what, Judy and I have been around the state a fair bit. I have not yet found anyone of the general public that doesn't say government should restructure itself if there's an ability to save money, and $12 million annually is a lot.
The public does get it, and they understand what this issue would do. And they know there's a little time frame in between that has to be done. I mean, one of the reasons I supported a constitutional convention was that would have opened the door for something like this. And it certainly would have been a lot easier. But just because it's difficult does not make it impossible, not with the two of us. I mean, the impossible takes a little longer, okay? Not to worry. We're going to be out there and pushing for this, and I think the public will be very supportive. And we're certainly going to encourage them to contact their legislators and push and push and push, because how can a legislator not come home and having voted for something like this where the possibility exists of saving $12 million, how can they sell that kind of a negative feeling back to their constituents who want to see cuts, who want to see smaller, more efficient government, who are saying, make some changes here, we're tired of what's going on, and they're mad.
And I think a difference in what you're seeing happen here by the two nominees standing together is that we've seen resolutions entered in the House and the Senate. And Judy can give you a historical perspective of that in a moment. But, they have to be identical. They have to pass the same language, because if it's not, it's the ships passing in the night, and then everybody can say, well, we voted for it, so we were going to save the $12 million. The difference is the two of us understand the legislative process. We understand the games that can be played. We know about having this two different language and ships passing in the night. When we're going to be those officers out there, and we're in the committees, and we're moving this ball forward, we're going to be able to make sure that it is shouted out about working the same together.
And we know that the legislature in the past has conceptually agreed to this. Both chambers, passed identical language that there should be a merger. And then we lose it with the Senate wanting to name this new office State Treasurer and the House wanting to name the office Comptroller of the Treasury. And because of semantics, we continue to duplicate and we continue to throw $12 million a year down the hole. So, got to start somewhere. If everybody does what we're doing, we'll be able to achieve some big gains here.
That actually raises a question I was going to ask. What would the combined office be called if you had your way? And is either of you saying, or which of you will not be running for that office 4 years from now?
Well, you know, first of all, we don't know what the office would be called because to a certain extent that will be up to the legislature. We've not sat down with them that's to me the next step. I mean, it's not quite in front of us.
What we name it is not going to be the deal breaker.
Yeah.
Judy and I have not sat down and said, okay, we're going to name it this or that. Because if that becomes the issue, we're willing to go with it.
Call it dog catcher. I don't
Whatever,
care.
whatever.
You know.
That's not going to be the deal breaker.
You know, that's it. And then there's the two of us. We you know, truly, other than the fact that we've talked about this because you would want to know what are we going to do and so on, we've talked about it generically but have never gotten to the point of really discussing who or what. And we figure down the road.
The one conclusion we came out of our talking about it was that it's not going to be the issue.
No.
And the reason this is important is that this is really beyond Judy and Dan. You know, I anticipate that we will be the elected treasurer and comptroller of Illinois. I anticipate we will have a very good shot at getting this on the constitutional question to the public, and I anticipate we'll have a very good shot at getting this thing changed for the people of Illinois. If that day comes and the time for circulating petitions in 2014, that is not an issue. And someday we're not going to be here, and the idea is to have one financial officer regardless of who the personalities are.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, really and truly, sometimes, remember, this has no political leaning whatsoever. This is totally nonpartisan. And sometimes you just have to do good for its own sake. And that's what this is all about.
Even with 50 fewer people or 50 fewer positions, how big would the office be and where would it rank in terms of, it's certainly not going to have more jobs than the Secretary of State's office, but where would it rank in terms of size of a government agency or a government department?
I would assume from the constitutionals, I'm not sure the size of the attorney generals, but I would anticipate it would probably be one of the smaller ones.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other questions for
On this issue.
the good of the order on this subject matter? Brad? If not, then thank you. We appreciate you being
Thank you
here.
for
And
coming.
some of our